the week has been quite busy, literally, from all the fireworks we've experienced in politics in the last few months. It appears that as the year began, it was building up, just waiting for the month of February into the month of March. You know all that has happened in the National Assembly. We're going to get to that later on the program. But also the issues around reverse politics and the decision of the Supreme Court has been bringing some ripple effect. And we have some development as far as the reverse politics is concerned. So, hey, sit tight. If it's a coffee, if it's whatever it is you take to sit and watch television, it's going to be a good time because we're going to look at all sides of the conversation today on the program. But one other thing that happened, just a few weeks ago, Ibrahim Babangida, the former head of state, had actually written a book chronicling his journey as a man in military who served the country at different points in time. And there were highlights of his leadership of the country, some actually very controversial. Well, the biggest controversy that generated from that book expectedly has to do with the issue of the June 12 annulment, the June 12, 1993 presidential election that was annulled. He said, well, it wasn't directly him that annulled that election. Actually some deep state led by General Sani Abacha. And a lot of reactions has come through as far as that book is concerned, and it's still being generated till today. The latest is coming from the family of the late Sani Abacha. They've rejected claims by the former military president Ibrahim Babangida concerning the annulment of June 12 presidential election. Babangida had in his book recently unveiled, it's titled A Journey in Service, blamed the annulment on the then Chief of Defense Staff, General Abacha. However, in a statement, the late general's son, Mohammed Abacha, accused Babangida, General Babangida, of engaging in what he terms deliberate distortion of historical facts. Now, speaking on behalf of the family, Mohammed Abacha accused Babangida of attempting to rewrite history, urging Nigerians to be wary of revisionist narrative, those are his words, that shift responsibility away from those truly accountable. The family said General Abacha remained loyal to General Babangida throughout his lifetime, even protecting him when his life was actually under threat. So when that book was actually written, there were tweets, there were remarks being made in isolation, but now they have come out with a clear statement to say whatever it is that the general has said is a distortion of fact, a distortion of history. So there may be that back and forth for a very long time at the end of the day, because it was quite a controversial moment in our nation's history and polity. But if we shift our attention away from that, let's go to Rivers State. And there's been a latest development. Remember, the Supreme Court had given his ruling and a judgment, and has said the governor, Amaewhule-Led, Fubara, must head to the House of Assembly to present the budget, or represent the budget in this case, to the Amaewhule-Led House of Assembly. That is the premise under which the federal government will release FAC through the CBN and every other person who is in charge of all of that to the Rivers State government. If that is not done, there will be no allocation. And that has generated reactions as well. That was one part of the judgment. The other part had to do with local government elections that were annulled, and now the State's Independent Electoral Commission had actually come out to say they will be having election, I think, in the next 4 or 5 months. So everybody was actually waiting. And then the members of the House of Assembly, led by Martin Amaewhule, had a sitting, and they gave the governor 48 hours to come and present the budget. Well, those 48 hours elapsed. We watched what happened, nothing really happened. Then they gave the chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission his own 48 hours to come and make some explainers as to the management of the Electoral Commission. It didn't show up, and they extended that to about Monday next week, which is about 72 hours. But today, we saw a statement from the Secretary to the State Government, Tammy Danagogo, saying that the governor is now inviting the Speaker, Right Honorable Martin Amaewhule, and other lawmakers for a meeting tomorrow. And the meeting is scheduled to hold at the governor's office in Government House, Port Harcourt. Now, it was dated March the 7th, and we obtained that, and I'm sure you've seen online as well. But let's show you part of the agenda of this particular meeting. So, Governor Fubara inviting Amaewhule and the rest members of the House of Assembly for a meeting. But let's give you highlight of some of the things that they will be deliberating on. Provision for a befitting space for the Assembly sitting. That's what that release contained. Payment of all outstanding remuneration and allowances to members, and the big one, the presentation of budget and sundry matters. So this is actually what they will be discussing tomorrow and the modalities for the way forward. Well, we haven't heard from the the Speaker Amaewhule himself, as well as the House in general, as far as this invitation is concerned. Whether they will honor it or not, we do not know, because they had given the governor 48 hours to present the budget, and there are reactions to that effect, whether they can do that or they can't do that. Well, that is going to be the very first conversation we'll have on the program. We're also, John, but before we get to the very first, this particular conversation, we understand that one of the leaders, political leaders in the state, George Sekibo, had actually had a meeting with some stakeholders, is also calling for peace as far as this issue of the governor or the government and the State House of Assembly is concerned. Let's take a listen, and then I'll bring in my guest.
Congress, RIPCO. The attention of the Rivers Ejo People Congress, RIPCO, has been drawn to several misguided and inflammatory statements recently made in both the print and electronic media. These statements threaten chaos and unrest in Rivers State, particularly in response to the Supreme Court judgment on the ongoing Rivers State crisis. While RIPCO ordinarily will not engage in public dispute over the opinions of other Ejo people, we feel compelled to clarify some points and correct the misconception being propagated. However, it is deeply troubling that certain individuals, including Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba, the president of the Ejo National Congress, INC, among others, have resorted to threat of violence and destruction, including targeting vital oil and gas infrastructure in Rivers State and the Wada-Niger Delta region. These calls for violence are not only reckless, but are profoundly misguided. It is wanting to disagree with the judicial decision. Still, it is entirely different to resort destructive and unlawful actions that threaten the lives and livelihood of innocent people in the Niger Delta region and Nigeria as a whole.
All right, George Sekibo, the senator who is making that remarks, as an Ejo man, also responding to the leadership of the Ejo, giving to some statement, they say it's credit to that leadership. But let's get to the very big conversation. So the issues around Rivers State is quite critical because of so many reasons, economic reason, and how important the state, just like every other state, by the way, is important to the Nigerian state. So things can actually become volatile if it's not properly handled. So this is less than 2 years into the lifespan of this administration, and it's been one crisis or political crisis or the other at the end of the day. Of course, the pro-Wike and pro-Fubara element all fighting for their spots in the polity. But is this going to bring closure or some sort of closure now that the governor has actually invited the members of the assembly? Have the members of the assembly actually received this invitation? Will they honor the invitation? Those are the big questions. Is this finally peace at last? We do not know. Well, we're joined on the program by a former commissioner for information and former managing director of the NDDC, Mrs. Ibim Semenitaris, joins us via Zoom. Also joining us is a two-term member of the River State House of Assembly who represented Emoa State constituency, Mr. Samuel Oge. Both of them joining us via Zoom. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Mr. Oge.
Thank you very much, my brother. Good evening. It's my pleasure.
Madam Semenitari, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Fantastic. Good to see you. And I forgot a bit, but let me save myself. Happy International Women's Day. It was yesterday.
See, I was wondering where you were going to go with that. Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day. I'm happy I remembered. So using you as a contact to all the women in Nigeria, happy International Women's Day to you.
We accept. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's get to the crux of the matter. When I saw that statement or that letter from the SSG to the River State House of Assembly directing directly to Martins Amaewhule, the Speaker, I'll ask you the question that came to my mind. And the question is this peace at last?
Well, I would like to hope so, because you see, ultimately, this is about Rivers' interest. And all of the gladiators are Rivers men and Rivers women. I would hate to think that there would be one Rivers citizen that wouldn't want it to be peace at last. So I would like to think, I would like to hope that it would be peace at last. I would like to think that all of the parties would like to come back to the negotiation table. You know, like it's always said, it doesn't matter how hard and how long the war is fought, everything ends on the negotiation table.
Ms. Auge, let me come to you. Do you feel that this is, we're getting close to bringing some form of a closure to this turmoil that has escalated from one point to the other, to the point where it was almost lost control? Now we have this invitation, although we don't know what will happen tomorrow as far as this is concerned. Are we getting close to a form of closure from where you sit?
Well, my dear brother, I will like to hold a different opinion. I want to differ with you. I suspect that letter, or I would like to say that letter is made in bad taste. You will realize that the letter was addressed to the head of the legislative arm of government. And if there is any letter, I have been a member, like you know, a two-time member of the House. I know that if the governor, as the head of the executive arm, wants to extend any invitation to the head of the legislative arm, he ought to have authored the letter. For him to have designated or cause his Secretary to State Government to extend such an invitation to the head of the legislative arm, for me, is an action in disrespect. It's an action in disrespect. And I doubt I would make bold to say that it is not intended to achieve any meaningful aim. It's not intended to achieve any meaningful aim. Because this is the Amaewhule-Led. It's not about Amaewhule-Led. We are talking about the head of an arm of government. So if the governor wants to extend an invitation, he ought to have done it himself and not through any of his aides.
Well, I don't know how civil service work. Maybe Mrs. Ibim Semetari, who has been a commissioner, will also respond to you. But let me ask. So,
I just wanted to ask a question. Is that okay? Can I butt in very
briefly? No, just go ahead, because okay? He has raised the point.
Okay,
just hold on, madam. Just hold on, madam. I think he has raised the point, because I'm looking at the letter. I had to go back and look at the letter addressed to Martin Amaewhule, but signed off by the SSG. Is there a problem with that as far as structure is concerned? Maybe you help us.
Not as far as I have known. I mean, the Secretary to State Government transmits communication to the Assembly all the time on behalf of the governor. He sends names of people to be cleared by the House of Assembly. He passes such communication to the House of Assembly and he signs those letters. The Honorable Attorney General sends letters to the House of Assembly, bills, and he signs them. It is a strange phenomenon to hear my brother, an honorable member, say that it is improper for the Secretary to State Government to send communication to the legislative arm of government, when this has happened so many times in the past. I think that it's very important that we do not stir a storm in a teacup, because there really is no reason for it. Again, both men and all of the people involved in this are Rivers men and women, and I'd like to think that they are statesmen and women, and I'd like to think that Rivers State is their priority.
Ms. Auge, I think you're talking about, in your view, defective communication. Is this a route that we may have to deal with in terms of another phase of crisis? Because some people say it's a letter, whether it's from the SSG or from the governor. Can we just move on? Why is this a problem where you sit? Because you, yes.
Let me come in at this point. You will recall that Mrs. Ibim just said here that there's nothing wrong in that communication process, where a second, maybe an aide to the governor can invite. Does she, Mrs. Ibim, do you quite realize that you are talking about the head of an arm of government?
So the secretary to the state government.
Listen.
Secretary to the state government, not an aide.
It's an aide to the governor. Maybe you take notice of that. It's an aid to the governor. If the governor wanted something tangible to come out of it, there is nothing wrong in the governor himself. That's my perception. I feel the letter is in bad taste. It is not, it doesn't have any good intention. You see, part of the problem of Rivers State is lack of...
Distinguished Honorable, will it be the first time that the Secretary to State government is sending communication to the House of Assembly?
I can't remember. The House.
Really?
While I was a member. Yeah. I can't remember. While I was a member of the House, I can't remember any time the governor sends any piece of communication through any other person other than himself, signed by himself. I can't remember that. And you know you have not been a member of the House. You have
I haven't been that privileged.
Yes, no. You haven't been. So I'm talking from the point of insight. I'm talking from the point of knowledge that it is a very serious matter, that they had an arm of government. See it this way, that an arm of government is extending an invitation to the other, and he writes it through, just see it, common sense.
The Secretary to the State government always sends communications, at least I know.
Okay, so Ms. Alge, so that my worry, because this you are speaking from the point of somebody who has been in the House, she has also been in cabinet, so both of you hold a very strong certain level of authority in terms of understanding.
She has not been a secretary to government.
But she's been in cabinet.
She was only a commissioner for education. I am talking from point of knowledge.
I understand you. So are you saying by implication that just by the way the letter is the letter is framed, or the communication, or who signed off this letter, we may be prepared for another round of back and forth? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Oge?
If there is good intention, there is nothing wrong. People must learn how to accept their mistakes and do the right thing. Now that I have pointed, I'm not speaking for the speaker, but what I am saying is, from my own point of view, it is not, that letter is not intended to achieve any good result, because it smacks of disrespect to the House.
Okay. All right, Ms. Cemetery, let's move on from there. I'm sure that the governor and his people, as well as the members of the House, they are listening, and whatever has to be done to make this meeting work, I'm sure everybody will have to make it work one way or the other. But let's look at some things. I've looked at the agenda of the meeting, and they talked about the issue of a befitting place for them to do their sitting, things like remuneration and allowances. They talked about things like the big issue, which is the one that the Supreme Court had said you must do, representation of the budget to the Assembly members and sundry issues. So talk to us about whether we will begin to see a strong de-escalation given the level of undercurrents that has brought us to this point, despite the Supreme Court judgment, despite this letter that I'm just seeing that is almost causing trouble on the show. Are we going to see some form of progress, or we're still dealing with a fragile situation here?
Again, one of the things that I think is important to note is the fact that the governor has shown good faith. And this has happened consistently in the course of these conversations. They go to the president meets with them, they come back, even though he's a defendant and not the prosecution, he asks that they withdraw the matter in court. That shows good faith. They've gone, the Supreme Court has ruled, and he said, immediately the Supreme Court ruled, he took the first decision and said, okay, local government councils will hand over to the HLGA. He goes ahead to say, my lawyers will study the CTC. Once they say it, they will advise me. I will take necessary steps to obey the ruling of court. And then he receives the CTC. I guess he's met with his lawyers. I don't work for government, so I cannot say for a fact, but I suspect they must have met. And then he goes ahead, and we see this communication today saying, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's have a roundtable. Let's address the issues before the Supreme Court. So I think that is showing good faith. I'd like to think that, again, like I said, I'd like to think that from the perspective of the House of Assembly, they too would want to make some steps forward so that we get to a resolution. Again, we must think Rivers State first. At the end of the day, doesn't matter how much war goes on, it ends on a negotiation table.
Let me say with you, Ms. Cemetery, before I go to Ms. Auge, which I'll ask maybe a similar question. I know that when that Supreme Court judgment came, a few days or the same day or 2 days after, I can't remember exactly now, but I do know, we all were aware that the State House of Assembly had asked him to present in 48 hours the budget to them. Given the fact that I did not honor that presentation, because people were interpreting it differently, I don't want to go into the details of which side anyone belongs to. Do you think that this may be another payback moment if they don't show up? Should he be angry? What do you think is going to play out here?
Well, again, when there is an order of court, I believe you have up to 80 days within which to comply. And as at the time the House of Assembly had asked, he had yet to receive the CTC. I'm sure that between himself and his lawyers or his attorney general, I'm sure they could reach the House of Assembly and say, oh, for XYZ reason, these are conversations that they would have amongst themselves. Again, speaking as a Rivers woman, who is very interested. In my own case, I even have no choice. I'm a Rivers woman. I'm married to a Rivers man. My children are Rivers children. So I really have no other state to go to. I hold only one passport, so I really have nowhere to run to. And so for me, the peace, the sanctity, and the safety of Rivers State is paramount. And so I expect, again, that first, whether it is the people in the assembly who I have voted with my votes, or the governor who I have elected with my votes, should put Rivers first. And I think in doing that, they must then consider the greater good of the Rivers people.
Ms. Auge, let me come to you with a similar question. Some people had said it wasn't fair, no matter what had happened. That is one side of the conversation, to say they couldn't have commanded the governor to come and present a budget 48 hours after. They should have allowed him, since he had said, let me see the CTC. I think the CTC will got a copy of it on Thursday evening also, and I'm going to study it.
On Friday, I think.
Oh, we got it, I think, earlier than Friday, Saturday.
Oh, really?
Thursday, Friday,
okay.
About that. So, Ms. Auge, my question to you is, let's go back to that moment, because you may likely suspect what may play out tomorrow if we're not careful here. Do you think it was fair to have asked him to present the budget in 48 hours, or they were just, look, it's time, it's tit for tat, let's go for it?
Well, my dear brother, you see, talk is free and facts are sacred. We just don't come on air to present issues the way you like. Issues are better presented with facts. Needless going back to the genesis of this problem. But I like to say that what has happened in Rivers State in the last 16 months is, to say the least, distasteful. On the grounds that so many things went wrong, even when there was no need for them to go wrong. Now, moving forward, like Ibima said, the judgment was out, and the governor needed to see the CTC and maybe get advice from his lawyers. What that means is that the whole world will wait for the governor to finish with his lawyers. Of course, he has representations at the Supreme Court on the day the judgment was delivered. And Ibim is a beneficiary of a court judgment. Nobody told, she didn't wait. At the time it was her turn to benefit from a court judgment, nobody called for CTC. I remember in Rivers State when Amaewhule-Led was sacked by the Supreme Court, nobody waited for CTC before Amaewhule was.
All right, well, you know that you streamed in 2009, not 2007.
Listen now, I didn't interject when you were speaking, and he didn't benefit from that. Then there was no need to wait for CTC. She didn't wait for CTC because it was her time to benefit from the decision of the court. Now, going back to the instant case, the matter before us, the issue before us is adherence to court decision. Simple. The interest all of us are canvassing here is the collective interest of Rivers people. And the House felt that, look, if we don't present the budget and get it approved, passed into law, the Rivers indigenes and citizens will suffer. There is no need dilly-dallying, wasting much time. Rivers people have suffered a long deal because of this unending crisis. Now that the Supreme Court has put paid to this back and forth, Mr. Governor, can you please present 2025 budget to allow us to do our job so that our people don't suffer? Mind you, let me remind you, if the governor, the court says, if the governor fails to present budget to the House and there is no appropriation law, then it means that the CBN should not release money to Rivers State government. The effect is clear that the citizens and not the governor or any other person supporting that will suffer. The poor citizens will suffer. And that is the overall interest of this state. The Assembly, in their wisdom, felt, look, there is no need wasting time. If I'm not mistaken, this is March, and budget, passage of budget takes some processes. Maybe they will need to work on it and then pass the bill. So I do not see anything wrong in asking the governor to present this bill. The only thing I see is that they are all working for the interest of the state. Now, the Assembly, in their magnanimity, has also said, look, even without a frank correspondence from the governor, to say, look, the number of hours he gave to me is not good enough for me to tidy up myself and present the budget you are asking for. No correspondence like that. But the people, the Assembly, in their magnanimity, has extended the time frame to another 78 hours. While we are waiting for that, what we hear is that there is an invitation from Secretary to the government for the Assembly to meet with the governor. You can see that the governor doesn't appear to be serious with the
Mr. Okay, if you look at that letter, without trying to cut you, I'm going to go to Mr. Bim in just a moment. Part of the letter said that just a moment. In that letter, I talked about the fact that so that you can sit down and trash out other issues for the benefit of the state. Maybe when I go to it, I'll read the exact statement, but this is just me paraphrasing.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
There was an invitation. We are all watching as the events unfold. There was an invitation by the House requesting the governor to present the budget, to present the budget proposal. The governor has not responded to that. 72 hours was now given. The invitation was extended for another 72 hours. No response to that invitation.
You know, just for the purpose of records, Mr. Oge, I'll go to Mr. Bim now. Just for the purpose of record, there was a back and forth between the government and the House of Assembly. The government had said 2 days after that they had not seen any letter. The House of Assembly responded. I think the principal secretary to the Speaker had said, look, we actually dispatched this letter to the government house, but they said they should bring it back to the sender. So we really don't know who is lying, whether it's the government or the House of Assembly. I just wanted to put that here.
Put it in the right perspective. They rejected the letter. They rejected it. They rejected the letter. And this, from the position of the House, they said this has been a regular occurrence where they send letter and they will reject. In fact, that there is a standing instruction that I want to ask Kibim whether that shows good faith. Does that show good faith? You have
all right. Let me go to Mr. Bim. Mr. Bim, you can see why I asked that question.
Neither you nor I are participants.
Yeah, so
I don't work in government house, nor do you. So we don't have the facts of that.
Mr. Military, just a moment. No, Mr. Oge, hold on, just a moment, please. Mr. Oge, just a moment. My apologies, Mr. Oge, if you can hear me.
That's why I'm asking this question. You spoke as if you are speaking for the government. You had all you enumerated the decisions, the steps the governor had taken since after the...
all of those are in the public domain.
Mr. Oge, just a moment. Mr. Bim, let's come to you. Mr. Oge, hold on. As I said, we don't know who to believe as to, oh, you sent we didn't see any letter. Oh, this is the letter we sent. You rejected it. This is what the courier said. Both of them is their word against this. So, which is why I started with that question, Ms. Cemetery. So you can see where I went to with that question. With this conversation, you're already seeing the back and forth as far as the Rivers politics is concerned. But there's a bit. I would like you to respond to him. But there's another bit I'll ask you, and he will also respond. Part of the decision of the Supreme Court, the third or enforceable order of the court has said the Rivers State House of Assembly shall resume sitting with all elected members forthwith. I wanted to find out from you whether this is going to include the fate of the members like Okojombo, who had led the House in his group at the end of the day.
Well,
Mr. Bim, are you with us?
So I am with you.
So you respond to his thought and respond to the question as well.
Well, first of all is that, like I said, neither Mr. Oge or I, or Honorable Oge, or myself can speak about a matter where we're not direct participants. I neither work for the Rivers State government nor do I receive letters in government house. So I cannot speak as to the veracity or otherwise of either claims, whether it is the claim of the House of Assembly or it is the claim of the Rivers State government. I'm not going to delve into a matter that I'm not a participant in. And I think that puts paid to that. Every matter on which I speak are matters that are in the public domain. By my training as a reporter, I only stick to the facts. I believe that facts are sacred, comments are free, and so I stick with the facts that I have. Having said that, as to whether all members will be seated, I believe will be a matter that would be a compliance of the Supreme Court rulings. If the Supreme Court has said all elected members should sit, then I believe all elected members should sit. That is if the Supreme Court says so. If they've said X, Y, and Z are elected members until any other order of court says it is not so, then it remains so. Like the revered late Justice Oputa would say, the Supreme Court is not supreme because it is infallible. It is infallible because it is supreme.
It's final.
All right. So, Ms. Oge, you've been a lawmaker, two-term member. So I would like you to respond to how this is going to be navigated, because I know that Martin Amaewhule-Led had suspended some members in the midst of that imbroglio. But the Supreme Court, the last enforceable order, I'm looking at it, after it talked about the fact that the Right Honorable Martin Amaewhule-Led and the other 26 members should forthwith resume unhindered sitting as Speaker and members, respectively, of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The third thing it said was the Rivers State House of Assembly shall resume sitting with all elected members forthwith. I'd like you to respond to that as we begin to wind down.
Well, let me remind you that the House is governed by rules. The House of Assembly is governed by rules. And one of those rules is that a member has a required number of days that you must sit to perform your legislative functions for which you were elected to do. So if any member absconds without any reasonable reason, the House reserves the right to make suspension or to suspend a member or to take action on the said member. Like Mr. Ibim said, we are all watchers, all of us. I'm surprised that Ibim is wearing a new garment today. He's talking peace now. Assuming she was talking all this before now, we wouldn't have got to where we are. But whether she has changed or not, she has become a born again, is not important. What is important now is the law has spoken. Let the governor abide by what the pronouncements of the court. Simple. If you want peace, present the budget. Let us screen the budget. Okay, to answer your question, sorry, sir. To answer the question, I'm aware, it's in the public domain, that Martin Amaewhule-Led assembly. Of course, there is no other assembly. You see, when people were saying in Rivers State, this spell is authentic, anytime you hear that lexicon in like Rivers politics, know that the other person is fake. We have had it before. I know one of my friends who bore that name, authentic speaker. I know how he ended. This one too has ended the same way. Now, the issue here is the House has taken a position. The position is for absconding from the House without approval, you cease to be member of this House. It's in the rules of the House. It's part of the law. The House is governed by rules. It's not just a marketplace where anybody can do anything. Any person who feels...
Ms. Oge, so let's begin to wind down. I'm wondering whether this is not cherry-picking the judgment. So there are three orders of court. For the avoidance of doubt, this is the statement of the Supreme Court Justice Agbim. For the avoidance of doubt, it is hereby ordered that the central bank, the accountant general, forthwith stop releasing the monies, you know that part, the Right Honorable Amaewhule-Led should forthwith resume unhindered, and then the part of every elected member should resume forthwith. So why are you picking one part and leaving the other? I had to read the judgment so that I see everything.
Is it okay for me to butt in for a minute?
Please, go ahead, please. Ms. Auge, just hold on so that you can have a say. Just a moment.
What I find curious at this point is that, you know, it's this inability for anybody, you know, for the House of Assembly, from the way my honorable brother here is speaking, to even want to shift 1 second. And this is where this problem started from. I took us back to the Presidential Peace Corps. You know, you cannot come to the negotiation table with daggers in your cloak. Nobody does that. You know, you must show good faith. Now, if you have said these are the orders of court, and the governor has said, okay, we're moving this step, you now talk about a matter that happened in conflict, when there was a conflict, when there was a war, when people were separated, and you're saying that they absconded from sitting. You know that is not factual. You know that is not correct. So, you know, there's got to be a sincerity on the part of every party. A sincerity
just hold on.
Rivers State. You know, we've got to have that. We cannot, again, like you said, we can't cherry pick. We can't choose what to obey and what not to obey. And we can't, for God's sake, have such deeply entrenched positions that we refuse to shift. I mean, nobody who owns peace does that.
It's also clear to me that Mrs. Ibim doesn't want to, is all deliberately evading the issues at stake, deliberately evading the issues at stake. Part of what you are asking for, or what we are discussing here, is that the Supreme Court gave certain consequential orders. Now, if you want peace, you don't cherry pick, like you said, obey some, leave the other one, wait for CTC. Supreme Court, in one of the decisions taken, said, look, the local government election that you conducted is a nullity, was invalidated. The governor didn't wait for CTC before he instructed the HLGA to take over the reins of the local government council. Ibim had deliberately overlooked that. But you will wait for CTC to present his budget. What are we talking? If you want peace, do peace. No need pretending. There's no need pretending. If he's interested in peace, I am interested in peace. We want the law to take influence. Remember, we were all here watching. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria intervened in this matter and said, look, the assembly members dropped impeachment notice. Governor, you do this, you do this.
All right, Ms. Auge.
Halfway.
All right.
Halfway. You stopped. And that's what led us to this place. Let somebody...
Yes, so the governor withdrew the matter from court.
All right, let me ask both of you a question.
The governor withdrew the matter from court, and the assembly members continue prosecuting.
All right, gentlemen and ladies. Ms. Auge, Ms. Ibim, just a moment, gentlemen and ladies.
We are talking law.
Just a moment. My final question, because we have other issues to tackle now. Just final question, 30 seconds each. And it's a sincere question. I want you to sincerely answer this, no matter what side you're on. Rivers State seem, unfortunately and sadly, which is not supposed to be synonymous with political crisis. I can go back to the era of Governor Dili and that period of Celestine Omeya, and then you know what happened between him and Amechi. And then afterward, we now had Amechi versus Governor Nyesom Wike then. And then afterward, we're now having Fubara versus Wike. What can we do to stop this from being the norm as far as the politics is concerned? 30 seconds, that's all we have, please.
Let me quickly answer that before Mrs. Ibim comes in. All of these crises have been settled through the court processes. There had not been any threat to life. There had not been cases of people threatening to kill anybody. We handle our cases maturely. Go to court, court makes pronouncement, and we come back and obey the rules of court. But not in this case, where a court has given a position and some people are threatening hell on earth. All of these cases you have since the days of Dr. Dili till today. People more disagree. People more disagree. But how you handle it is what is important.
Totally out of time. Totally, Mr. Okay, let's.
So the person who goes to court, wants peace, wants a peaceful, a constitutional resolution of the matter.
All right, let's.
And not
Mr.
the person who invites.
Ms. Hoge, just a moment. Hello? My apologies. Let me go. We're totally out of time. Mrs. Cemetery, please. Your thought. 30 seconds.
Yeah. So I think that quite frankly, in terms of solution, it is about everyone showing good faith. It's about putting Rivers State first, and I think that is something that all of us, whether we have the privilege of being elected by the people or the privilege of being appointed and therefore become leaders in Rivers State, we must all show good faith. We must put Rivers State first. We cannot, honestly speaking, be unwilling to put our state first. Every time we don't show good faith, we make it impossible for us to move forward. And I think that is really the crux of the matter. But again, I must say to you that Rivers people are more peaceful than you guys try to make us. I'm sure that if I go to my brother's house, he will give me native soup to eat. He will give me something to drink.
That's the idea. This week, maybe you should visit each other. I must thank both of you.
Rivers people are more peaceful.
Mrs. Cemetery and Mr. Amaewhule-Led, thank you so much for coming on the program. I'm sure by Monday you just find your venues and eat your native soup. We're looking for peace in Rivers State. Mr. Bim Cemetery, former Commissioner of Information and former MD NDDC, as well as Mr. Amaewhule-Led, a former member of the Rivers State House of Assembly, represented Emo State constituency. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Thank you. It's a privilege. Thank you.